there were days in the early part of my current recovery, which I'm coming up on 12 years now,
Well
uh,
done.
where it was like
Congratulations.
51% not drink, 49% drink. I mean, the obsession is so powerful. People don't
Yeah.
realize we don't metabolize alcohol the same as normal people, and we create acetone. So there's a physiological reason why alcoholics are different, but our brains are also different.
You've entered Legal Al, where sharp legal minds meet the power of strategic intuitive intelligence and inner awareness. Hosted by someone that is a veteran, an author, and is an individual experienced in specialist security operations, strategic intuitive intelligence, and transformational psychology, this is not your typical legal podcast. We explore what most lawyers never say out loud: burnout, grief, inner dissonance, and what it really takes to sustain a legal career with clarity, purpose, and personal alignment. Alongside powerful solo insights, you'll hear thought-provoking conversations with members of the Help Lawyer Network, lawyers, legal support professionals, and expert witnesses, sharing real stories from the front lines. This is the space where law meets what's rarely talked about. Welcome to Legal Al, where wisdom meets the law and strategic intuitive intelligence guides the way.
Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in the globe. Welcome back to Legal Owl. We're changing things a little bit different today. I've got a great guest here who's a law. I want to say an ex-lawyer. Is there such a thing as an ex-lawyer? He's a retired lawyer, but he's in a very unique journey. He's also a veteran, which is very close to my heart as well. And served the country in Vietnam and had a remarkable legal career, has now written a book, has gone on a spiritual journey. So this is kind of story from the front lines. This is a little bit different. We're coming at this from a different angle. So I would like to welcome my guest Rand Timmerman today to Legal Owl. Rand, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing great, John. Thank you. I'm really happy to be here with you.
I'm glad to have. Last time that we chatted when we connected, I loved the fact that your story was kind of unique, from your days in the military to then you becoming a lawyer and then going on this kind of this pilgrimage. Let's talk a little bit about your background, your time with the service, what you did, and how you became a lawyer and why you wanted to go from that to a legal career.
Yeah. Well, I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps in March of 1966 because I was kind of stuck in a hard place as far as money went. But I like to kid that the Marine Corps damn near got me killed about 20 times. And then out of the blue, it gave me a career. I mean, it was just an astonishing, when I look back on it, how I ended up being a lawyer. And I came from a place called Adams, New York, a very rural town up in upstate New York, almost into Canada on the east side of Lake Ontario. And I grew up very poor. My dad was a Mustang pilot in World War II. I had two uncles that were World War II vets, one D-Day,
Wow.
another one was a machine gunner on a bomber. And so it was kind of a warrior family background a little bit, but very impoverished because my dad came back, married my mom, had my brother and I, and then he got polio. 8 months in an iron lung, a year in the
Wow.
hospital. Yeah.
That's 8 months in an iron lung.
Oh
Oh
my
my
god,
god.
unbelievable. He had 2 cousins, one was 19, one was 20, got polio on the same day and died the same day. And
That's
somehow
nuts.
my
That's crazy.
dad, they got him into this, it was a children's hospital in Utica, New York, 8
Yeah.
in an iron lung. I don't know what that does to a man. I don't know what my dad was like before that tragedy, but he was a tough son of a gun, Mustang pilot, never talked about his service. My uncles didn't. They just didn't do that. And but because of that, we were very, very poor in a very poor community. So I had a chip on my shoulder. I mean, at 5 years old, I looked around. I got a dad that's crippled, works hard, hardworking man, but and uh,
Wow.
and I'm like, we're screwed. I went to bed hungry a lot, but
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was a pretty good student. There were a lot of farms around. I worked on all the farms and worked a lot with my dad all the time when he wasn't working because I had to help him out. I was the oldest, so I was expected to do that. So I had a little resentment about all that because my childhood was not. My siblings got to play more. I was the oldest. So anyway, and I went to college, first one in the whole family, extended family, everyone went to college. I'm working as a janitor from midnight till 8 a.m. in the morning, and I'm going to classes. I was selling Amway, a pin setter in a bowling alley, and I'm like, "Wow, I have no idea what I'm doing." I changed my major 3 times, and the last time I changed it to psychology because I knew it was a nut job. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I would save my money up. I knew I probably had an alcoholic tendency from a very young age,
Yeah.
13. First time I tried it, I liked it a lot, but it wasn't a problem because I didn't have any money. So, for many it was not really a problem for me until later on in my life, but anyway, I enjoyed drinking a lot, and I would save my loose change in a jar, and then I'd pick a weekend, so in February of 1966, I'm in a little bar in Oswego, New York. Snowstorm comes through. I wake up on Monday morning on the pool table. I'm there by myself, and I hear a key go in the door, and the owner comes in, the bartender. He never said a word to me. Came in, just went over, started cleaning glasses, turned the radio on, and they were talking about the 1st Marine Division going into Vietnam.
Wow.
And I sat up. I laid there. I was just thinking about how much I was like a lost soul, and I'm thinking French Foreign Legion. Well, there it is. So I got up and left. And a month later, I'm in the War Memorial in Syracuse, New York, raising my hand, swearing to protect my country against enemies, foreign and domestic. And 9 months later, I'm in
Wow.
the rice paddy going, I think I messed up.
And you knew, I mean, essentially, you knew you were going to war.
Oh, I knew. Yeah. Well, my brother was already there. He had enlisted in the Army before me, my younger brother. So while I was doing 3 semesters in Oswego State University, he was, he went through boot camp and he went to Chulai. He was in Chulai right in the middle of Da Nang when I went in the Marine Corps. And he was still there when I got there 9 months later. He was a machine gunner on helicopters. I
Right.
ended up in the 1st Marine Division. That was the
Wow.
division. Yeah, the one I heard on the radio. So, and I ended up being a machine gunner on helicopters with the 1st Marine Air Wing, which was they were right where we were, the 1st Marine Division up in Da Nang, which was I Corps. Anyway, like a lot of guys, I had a lot of close calls. Unlike some, I didn't end up in a body bag, thank God. So when I left, they made me a Mustang lieutenant for a couple months at the end because
Wow.
lieutenants didn't do well in combat zones, right? They got to stick their heads up and do stupid
So
stuff.
you knew a lot of your brothers in arms that were that you, so you didn't want to, you wouldn't want to go out because they were all passing, they were all going.
Yeah. So they said, well, you can go back to the States, be a corporal again, and get out, or you can go to OCS, Officer Candidate School. So I went to Officer Candidate School. I went to basic school, and I applied to be in the Air Wing because I didn't want to be, I didn't want to go back to 1st Marine Division as a second lieutenant. So I show up at Cherry Point, where the 1st Marine Air Wing was, and at that time, that was their headquarters. And I got there on a Sunday, John, and the officer of the day is my ex-drill instructor
Oh
back at
no.
Bear Island, and now he's a Mustang captain. And we do the hug
Gee.
kisses and everything. Yeah, I had seen him in Vietnam. He was a
Yeah.
gunnery sergeant in Vietnam when I was an enlisted man. They made him a lieutenant, and then they promoted him to captain. So he's a captain
Wow.
when I
And
get,
you guys met after. Oh, that's crazy.
and then when I left 2.5 years later, I was a 1st lieutenant. He was a gunnery sergeant again.
Jeez.
But anyway,
What did he do wrong?
nothing. It was just the Marine Corps exploded from 200,000 to 1 million men by 1970, and then back to
Wow.
200,000. So he was on the other side of that mountain. But anyway, so he says, I got all these schools, and he's rallying them off, and he said, Rhode Island. I'll never forget it. I go, what's the school in Rhode Island? I've never been to Rhode Island. What's that? He says, it's a JAG school, Judge Advocate General. I went, really? Next day,
Wow.
I'm in Newport, Rhode Island. At the
Jeez, in the JAG school.
in the JAG school, there's 100 of us. Me, brand new second lieutenant, without a college education, let alone a law degree, and 99 United
Jeez.
States Marine Corps captains who are all law school graduates.
Wow. Tell everybody, because there's a lot of people out there won't know what JAG school is. Tell them what it actually is.
It's Judge Advocate General. It's the school for lawyers to be military lawyers and to, carry out the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which I already knew about it because you get trained in it as a enlisted man, at least the basic stuff.
Yeah.
So we
And
get
you
over.
kind of got in the back door then. You kind of because there's all these captains ahead of you that were lawyers, and you were right in there, right at the beginning.
Yeah, and I mean, compared to them, I'm like a schmuck, right?
I was going to say we used to have a saying in the British Army. You were a nig. You were basically you were a young soldier. You knew nothing. You hadn't a clue, and that was it. And so that's kind of how they probably treated you as well.
Yeah. So I'm this farm boy who somehow managed to get himself up into the ranks a little bit, but 20 of us rented a mansion in Rhode Island. It was right on the beach because it was the off season. It was in February,
Wow.
March, and so I don't know. They started partying. They graduated. They got their law degrees and everything. And I decided I'm not going to drink during the week. I'm going to kind of work on this. So I focused on it, and we partied on the weekends and stuff like that. But gosh darn it! So at the end of it, I am the class honor man. I got the highest.
Wow.
I got the highest scores, and they're all
That's
like,
amazing.
"No, you don't even know what you're doing. You don't know anything about the law." It's all good nature. Yeah, but so I went back to Cherry Point. They made me a defense attorney.
Hi, if you are a legal expert or an expert witness and you would like to join our exclusive legal community, then connect with me on Help Lawyer and let's have a conversation. Rand, did you want to be a defense attorney, or did you want to look at another aspect? Or did they just decide this is what your strength is, this is what you're going to do?
No, they decided that. I kind of earned the badge because of what happened. I could have been a legal officer and just been more or less doing administrative stuff, or I wanted to be. I joined Toastmasters because I knew I didn't know how to speak in front of colonels, majors and captains and all that kind of stuff. And that's what juries are made up in the Marine Corps or in the military. They're not your peers. They're not enlisted men trying enlisted men. No, they're officers, usually a colonel, a major, captain, maybe yeah. So I did a couple of trials, and one of the guys was charged with sleeping on watch, which in the Marine Corps is 2 years Leavenworth and a dishonorable discharge. I mean, it's a serious thing. And I don't know. I was gung ho. I got a witness, and they let him off. They acquitted him. And then
how did you get him off then? Was that your first case?
No, it was like the second or third. I just raised.
What was your first case like? Because obviously you've come out of JAG school. You're now a lawyer. What was your first defense case that they gave you?
I don't remember, John, to be honest. The case with the guy sleeping on watch was pretty quick. I think I had one or two other ones. Who knows? Not keeping your bed tight or something. But this one was serious, and I took it serious, and they did too. Everybody knew what was at stake, and so I worked at it, and I found a witness, and he said, "Well, I didn't see him sleeping," and I don't know. I raised enough doubt that they acquitted him, which is unreal.
That's all you need to do, is that raise enough doubt, and then that's it. If there's enough doubt in the case, then it's not going to go anywhere.
Yep. And then it happened again. So you know how they solved that problem?
How?
They made me a prosecutor.
Oh. So you were so good at defending, they needed you to put people away. Wow.
So that's why I say, I mean, I almost got killed in Vietnam. Oh my God, 20 times. I mean, an inch one way or another sometimes. And I was also qualified to be a forward observer because I'm in the 1st Marine Air Wing and I had to do training for that. I'm probably going to go back to Vietnam as a forward observer. Right. But then this captain of mine kept sending me down to Puerto Rico at Roosevelt Roads Navy base to do Article 32 trials because there was a contingent of Marines down there, and they go out and get drunk and do stupid stuff and
Yeah.
AWOLs, mostly AWOL. My first case was probably an AWOL, John, now that I think
Yeah.
about it. But anyway, AWOL means absent without leave.
Yeah.
So
And actually, I went in my days, I actually went AWOL. I was the only Scotsman in my regiment at the time, and I had a number of guys that came into my room in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. and beat me up to a bit of a pulp. And I then decided to go AWOL, and then I handed myself in, and then they threw me in jankers for a few days until they sorted me out. So I get it, I understand it.
yeah. So I'm on the top of the list to go back to Vietnam. Next thing I know, I'm in Puerto Rico at Roosevelt Roads doing trials. And then I go back and now I'm back up on the list again. And then the second time I get ordered to go back down there and I'm talking to this captain. His name was Dale Moan. And he goes, "Why do you think I keep sending you to Puerto Rico? You dumb bastard." You know what I mean? Duh.
Why did you from your military side, from you being in the Marines, seeing action, going to war, did you have an interest in the legal area, or was it just the fact that your buddy was going and you had the opportunity and you just jumped at it, or were you really interested in it?
I think I was really interested. I was still looking for something that I could do to not go back to being a civilian and not have a path that would lead me to riches. I had a huge resentment against
Right. Okay, you could see light at the end of the tunnel. Really, this was your opportunity. You didn't want to
well,
go into Civvy Street,
yeah, I didn't know what the hell I could do. I mean, I just didn't have a skill set.
right?
I mean, I didn't really want to be a police officer. That would have been sort of, but I don't know. I was looking for something and I was good at reading and I had a skill set that was pretty good for a lawyer, kind of a strong back, strong mind. And,
Yeah.
and I was not afraid, you know, if things get too tough, I would always say, "Hey, nobody's shooting at you, Rand. What the hell's the problem? Just do it." That
Did you
kind of
prefer did you prefer being a prosecutor rather than on defense, or did you what was your preference?
Oh, I never was a prosecutor as a civilian. No, I came back out and immediately started doing, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I went to college in Syracuse, New York. I went to Syracuse and then I went to law school there and I was still working 3 jobs, married with 2 kids because I still had no money.
Wow.
And, but I
Wow.
wanted to go back home basically. So I ended up being a country lawyer in upstate New York in 4 rural counties up there. And had an office in Watertown, New York, where the 10th Mountain Division is, and Jefferson County, and it's still got more cows than people as far as I know. And I got an office in downtown Watertown, and I started doing a lot of defense work because all you had to do is go into a court and say, "Oh, do you need a lawyer to represent anybody?" "Oh, yeah, I'm glad you're here." The judge, and we were getting, at that time when I started, I was getting $10 an hour out of court, $15 an hour in court. I mean, it was.
Wow.
So I went around to all these courts and signed up to be defense lawyer. And then, and I started getting some fairly high profile. I had a knack for it. And
You got some high pro. Now, if I remember right, when last time you and I spoke, you told me about a particular case that I can't that I'm looking forward to you talking about, that you trialed without a jury.
yes, well, I had a number of jury trials, but I ended up doing a murder case in Lewis County, which was the next county over next to Jefferson. And this county, I still look back at it with very fond. So Jefferson County is probably around 1,500 square miles. It's very rural. Watertown has 30,000 people in it. It's the big metropolis. And then you got Lewis County to the east of that. It's 1,200 square miles. It has less than 30,000 people. I was doing a little research yesterday, John, trying to remember what some of the things about Lewis County that I wasn't sure about. And so I'm looking at these old records. Lewis County had like I said, 1,300 square miles. It's had somewhere less than 30,000 people, but usually between 25 and 30,000 people, all the way back to the 1800s, the early 1800s.
Wow.
It's been the same size forever.
For that long, way back from the 1800s.
Yeah, and
And I remember you said to me as well that there wasn't massive. I mean, there was only a few big cases because in a rural country like that, it was, arguing over, I don't know, someone's cow or something, or stealing their cattle. But
Yeah.
you did eventually do some high profile work.
Right. So, yeah, Lowville is the county seat of Lewis County. It's got 3,500 people. That's been the same level of population in that little town for also going all the way back to the early 1800s. So that you can walk out of the courthouse in Lowville, and if you walked in any direction within less than a mile, you're going to be in a farmer's field. It's never changed. Every day I walk out of that farmhouse, there's usually a tractor going by with a farmer on it pulling a manure spreader or a hay wagon, half the people
Wow.
walking in and out of that courthouse have manure on their boots, that kind of a.
What was the kind of in an area like that though? What was the main crimes that you had to deal with most of the time?
There probably DUIs would be the most, not me, but the police.
Right,
DUIs,
DUI.
domestic stuff. Most people did not. Very low crime rate. Everybody has guns. Every truck has got a gun in the back window.
Yeah,
In those days,
yeah.
I had one of mine. My truck, I hunted and all that stuff. So, but in a couple of decades, they had 2 murders, and I was involved in both of them.
Yeah, I remember you saying, yeah.
Both of them, and that's just freaky in itself because there was hardly
It
any.
is freaky.
Yeah. And the first one was in 1991, and the victim, I ended up representing one of the defendants. The victims, this guy disappeared. His name was Proul. He worked at the cheese factory. So in Lewis
Right.
County, what do you got? You got farming, mostly just dairy farming.
Dairy
And you got
cows.
logging, and you got cheese making, right?
Right.
So
Right.
there's a cheese making plant there, and this guy worked in that plant, and he was having an affair with one of the wife of 2 brothers. Their last name was Kiefer, that lived on a farm with their parents, right? And they found out that one of them did, Brad, that his wife was cheating on him with this guy. These 2 gentlemen had never committed a crime in their whole life.
Wow.
They didn't have a traffic ticket. They were not
Jeez.
on the radar of the police at all.
Wow.
Proul, one night he walks off the night shift at that cheese factory and disappears. Just disappears.
Jeez.
Nobody knows anything. 8 months later, a dog comes dragging a femur bone out of the woods.
Finds the body.
They found the body. Yeah.
Wow.
And then they started doing an investigation. There was no eyewitnesses to the murder or anything like that, with one exception probably.
I was going to say.
So anyway, there's this big investigation, and they arrest the Kiefer brothers. And they know that one of them's wife cheated with this guy, and that they probably had something to do with it. And then they got search warrants, and lo and behold, they found blood in the vehicle. And they also found clothes that had been burnt in a stove and all this kind of stuff. So they had it was all circumstantial. And then they submitted blood samples to the FBI lab in Washington, D.C. Now, this is in 1991.
I was going to say, and this is a while ago, so obviously the technology wouldn't have been the way it is today.
Yeah. So what happened was the FBI said there was a match. And they had been doing matches for a little bit at that point, but nobody had ever legally tested whether or not it was scientifically reliable enough to be used in a court of law. So here I am in Lewis County now.
And that's what you did. You challenged them
I
scientifically?
challenged them. I subpoenaed the director of the FBI lab. The judge was furious.
I can imagine.
They had done a test and the DNA results that they claimed to have was 1,000,000 to 1. Which means
That's crazy.
out of 1,000,000 people, one person besides the defendant could be 50% possibility that they were the perpetrator of the crime. So it's you're screwed, right? With the DNA.
Pretty much.
That's overwhelming, right? The four counties that I worked in, Lewis, Jefferson, St. Lawrence, and Oswego, there's 1,000,000 people, and that area is bigger than Rhode Island. I mean, it's huge area up there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't know what to do. So I subpoenaed him. I did everything a defense lawyer would do. I did an omnibus motion right in the beginning, demanded all the evidence. So this is funny. So Sheriff Jock is the sheriff in Lewis County. He was a good guy. He really was.
Right.
When the jury went out on this murder case, me, Jim O'Rourke, who was the district attorney, and Jock went back in a file room in the courthouse just to wait. Then Jim O'Rourke and I were used to hanging out back there. Whenever we had jury trials, we could go there and nobody could bother us. And we'd just wait. And the court attendant would come and say, yeah, they're coming out or whatever, with the verdict.
Yeah.
And then on this one, Jock is sitting there. And finally I go, Sheriff, why are you here? He said, well, we had threats, Rand. We got threats. And I said, and I'm looking at Jim O'Rourke, the DA, and I'm going, Jim, can you believe somebody would be so stupid as to threaten you? And and Jock looks at me and he says, no, they weren't threatening the DA. They weren't threatening Jim. They were threatening you, Rand.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So they already knew that you were going to be, so you were a target.
Nothing happened, so I don't know, but no, that was just kind of funny. So anyway, when I did the omnibus motion for all the evidence, Sheriff Jock calls me up one day and he says, Rand, I have boxes and boxes of evidence. It will take me 6 months to copy all this stuff. He says, why don't you come out to the jail on the weekend? I'll lock you in a room with all the evidence we have. I'll give you a copier and somebody to help you, and you can go through it and copy everything you want.
Wow.
I said, okay, yeah, why not? What the heck? So I went over there, locked me in. I'm copying stuff.
Locked you in the jail so you could copy everything.
It was amazing, John. They had hired 2, I don't know what you call them, seers? Psychics?
Okay, right, yeah.
Lewis County. I never, in my wildest dreams, I would never think that Lewis County, this quiet, urban or rural paradise, would ever hire psychics to try to find out where the body was. But that's what they did. And
did the psychic, were the psychics good? Did they get the evidence, or wasn't?
One of them was dead on.
Wow.
I was astonished. She described where the body was, what it looked like, how it would be found, the terrain. I mean, what she didn't know was, and she had some ideas about the perpetrators, but not a whole lot. But she described it. I mean, pretty much perfect.
She was accurate.
She knew.
It's a shame, Rand, because I mean, I know there has been there's been Noreen Renier who's done stuff. The psychics that have worked with police. I think it should happen a lot more. I think it should be used a lot more, but I think it should be done in a way that there's evidential trails and there's certain SOPs to go through, not just have somebody come in and say, I can see this or I can see that or I've got this feeling. But it's amazing. So the other psychic was off totally.
No, they weren't off, but the one was just so uncanny, it blew me away. For
Wow.
years, for the next 2 decades, I had on the back of my veranda in my office on top of one of my, desks, another desk, basically, 2 file doors full of all the things I copied that day in there and all of my
Jeez.
notes and everything. I was gonna write a book about it, and then I don't know, when I finally retired, I was dealing with my alcoholism at that point, you know? Didn't bother me till the very end of my career, and then I was really struggling hard for a period of a couple years, and, I don't know, I didn't follow through with that, so we destroyed it all. I wish I hadn't ran away because it was just unbelievable. And O'Rourke, the DA, came over that day, and we were talking about stuff. They did a sweep of the ditches on the road. See, another lawyer that I knew had when all this finally broke, they had figured out that they were driving down the road where whoever did it must have gone. And
Right.
actually, she was a lady attorney and a nice lady and a good attorney, and her husband, they were out socializing, doing whatever, and when they apparently came up on this vehicle and they saw there was something going on in the vehicle, it looked like a fight, 2 people fighting, but
Right.
that was it. So when she testified at the trial, I really irked my client's parents had retained me to represent their son, right? Now, these are good, solid, honest, befuddled, totally out of their minds with grief farm parents. These are good, wholesome people. And they paid me a lot of money and I earned it. I mean, I worked my butt off, but it was a lot of money. And I remember they said, "You didn't cross-examine her." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"No,
Why didn't you cross-examine then?
I did not cross-examine the lady attorney who testified about seeing these guys fighting in a car
Right.
on this back road at about sometime during the same night when this guy disappeared." But that's it. That was it. So they didn't identify the vehicle. They didn't identify the people. So I
Wow.
wasn't, a lot of lawyers think they have to cross-examine everybody.
They
I
don't.
No, that would have been the worst thing in the world. I wanted them to testify and get the hell out of there so I could argue for the jury. They never identified the vehicle. They didn't identify the people. It could have been a man and a woman who had just been out drinking too much. It could have been, you know, a bishop and I don't know, a Hindu fighting over religion. Who the hell knows? It doesn't matter.
And I guess, and also it can be at night. It depends on the weather, whether it's foggy, whether it's rainy, all that kind of stuff as well comes into play.
Yeah, so
The
that's what
environment.
I argued to the jury. I knew what I was gonna do. I was not gonna give her one more second on that stand to try to fix it or anything else like that. Um, but that was one of the more interesting things that had happened. Um, yeah, so we were there. There was a box of knives. They stabbed him 56 times. The defendant had
Was it more than one perpetrator then, or just one
the 2
person?
brothers.
There
The
was
2
two.
brothers.
So the two brothers did it together.
Right. One of them was driving. They tried to shoot him, missed, put a hole in the bottom of the vehicle. That was another piece of evidence. There was a bullet hole in there. And they stabbed him
Now,
50.
was the psychic able to identify anything about the brothers stabbing him or anything?
I don't recall that. No, I don't think so. No,
Interesting.
I don't think there was but they did a sweep of the roads and they, so there's 2 boxes there full of knives. I mean, all kinds of knives.
Wow.
Any one of which of them could have. Now, the thing that bothered me about it, John, was that he had a lot of defensive wounds.
Right.
Fought like a son of a gun. That made me feel kind of bad in a way because he had a lot of wounds on his hands and his arms. So he was
Because he was
fighting for
fighting
his
off,
life.
and yeah,
Fighting for his
yeah.
life. That was not pleasant at all. They never admitted to doing. I did my job, but they never admitted to it. But it was pretty clear in the end. So
How
anyway,
do you got them off? You actually got the brothers off. You won the case, didn't you?
no, they got convicted of. They didn't get convicted of intentional homicide. They got
Right.
not accidental, but I can't remember the exact wording of it. But so they got a lesser than cold-blooded murder.
But they would have got.
Yeah. But it was an amazing experience. One of the things that I did, I prepared a lot. My daughter was getting her PhD in biology at St. Lawrence University, and that preparing for that trial, I had books on DNA like this. I mean, huge
Wow.
volumes. I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to figure this all out. And then I went to see a lawyer down in Syracuse who did a lot of criminal stuff, very well-known lawyer, nationally, basically. And I told him everything I was doing and what was going on. And he got all done. He looked at me, he says, Rand, you're over-prepared. I said, you don't have any
Wow.
more. No, he says, you're way too far. So anyway, I subpoenaed the director of the FBI lab. The judge set aside a week for the hearing. She came up. There's issues about, her credentials and stuff like that. We spent a fair amount of time on it, but I didn't want to have her fired or, the judge discharge it because she was not qualified. I wanted to test the whole thing, the scientific reliability of that type of evidence.
So did you have her? Was she acting like an expert witness, and then
Yes.
you had to so you would challenge her? I
Yeah,
don't know if is that the same as a Dobert challenge, but you would challenge her. Basically, she want to say she wasn't good enough or she wasn't qualified enough to do it.
Yep. I subpoenaed her. She showed up. And then I talked to Jim O'Rourke, the district attorney, and I said, why don't you call her as your witness? She's really your witness. Now that I've got her here, you can't just say, well, he didn't do what he has to do to contest the DNA. So, judge, you have to accept it. I've done my part now. And Jim said, okay, I wanted him to do the direct questioning. Right. I wanted to be able to cross-examine her. So Jim was fine with that. He was a good lawyer. I mean, one day I was there on another case and we got done and I said, Jim, I don't know where these people drove these roads around here. He says, well, I can show you. You want to go for a ride? He showed me where we went from the cheese plant where this guy was to the route they must have taken to where they
Right.
buried the body. The DA took me to show me that. And so when we're in the sheriff's office there in the jail going through all the evidence, there's 2 boxes of knives there that they searched all the roads. They found 57 knives. I was astonished that there was that many knives people were throwing out their windows.
I was going to say, what was people driving down the highway and just chucking the knives out the window?
I don't know. They call that.
On the same area, 57 knives. I mean, that's nuts.
I said, Jim, any of these been tested for DNA? And he said, no, we're not going to buy it. It's too expensive. So they didn't.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So we're doing the hearing. And I'm sitting there. They've got the markers on a whiteboard. And she's testifying about the markers and all this and that. And I'm looking at them. And I'm thinking, I don't think you can see that bottom marker. There was 9 markers. They're on one side, and then they had a description, the technical, what each one was, and all this, scientific gobbledygook kind of stuff. It's important, but it's not.
You couldn't see the other marker.
So when I got to cross-examine her, I walked up and I took my yellow pad and I put it over all the words. So only thing it was showing was the markers. And I looked right at her and I said, you can't see that bottom marker, can you? I was pointing at the bottom. I had asked her some other questions first, of course, but
Yeah.
when it got down to the meat of it, and I said, you cannot see that bottom marker, can you? And she's like, well, no, you can't see it. And everybody in the whole room can see I'm right. It's not there. You can't see it. And finally she goes, you're right. It's not there. And I said, thank you very much. Now, if it's not there, what does that mean?
What'd she say?
She says, well, it makes the test invalid. And I said, that's exactly right. That marker's there. That whole test is invalid.
You got the test invalidated. The science didn't match up.
It didn't. Well, if the science is valid, it means that test he is excluded. You can't pick and choose. And so I'm asking her, you can't pick and choose, right? And she says, no, you can't. So it either is or it isn't. It's kind of like God. Either God is or
Right.
God isn't. And she said, it
Exactly.
isn't. And I said, so that means it's got to be thrown out, the whole thing thrown out. She said, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So then,
That must have pissed him off.
oh, the whole room, everybody knows this case is, I've got a winner now, right?
Right.
Well, the judge, he was a nice man, but he's a small town.
He
And
didn't want to rock the boat. He didn't want to
when
rock
we
the boat
did
with the feds.
when we did the voir dire for the witness, for the jury,
Yeah.
they subpoenaed, I'm going to say 200 people for this jury. And they made them come in for a week at different times. So
Jeez.
for a week, me and O'Rourke were there with the judge doing voir dire, questioning the potential jurors. And then you've got, I think I had 20, you can just throw them off for no reason. Then you got to have a reason. And it was like, it was like a political rally for the judge. I swear, everyone that walked in, he'd go, "Hey, Harry, good to see you, man. Yeah, Judge, how you doing today?
Vote for me. Vote for Harry.
That heifer you were telling me about the other day, the one that's sick, did it make it or did it die?" "Oh, no, the heifer's fine." I'm not exaggerating, God. I'm not exaggerating. I'm like, oh, my God.
Jeez.
It took us a week to get a jury. This is the kind of,
Because he knew everybody's. This is talk about bias.
Yeah. In the middle of the trial, I have a weird sense of humor, right? So in the middle of the trial, we were getting into an argument about something, whether it could be admissible into evidence or not. So I asked the judge to talk about it at the bench. So we went up and had a bench talk. Lawyers do that. Sometimes they'll kick the jury out. I think the jury was out. We were fighting about something. And I go up to the judge and I said, "Judge, do you know what's 50 feet long and has 3 teeth?" And he goes, "No, Mr. Chairman, what's 50 feet long and only has 3 teeth?" And I said, "It's the line at the beer tent at the county fair." The county fair was going on. And he looks at me and he goes, "Mr. Timmerman, we don't have a beer tent at the Lewis County Fair." I was just kind of making a crude joke, but yeah, he didn't. I don't think he cared for me a whole hell of a lot. I was making his life way harder than it ever been.
I can imagine you being quite difficult with him, actually.
Yeah, we had a lady who, one of the jurors, she was the most pretty juror on the jury, this lady from this county. And we were getting down towards the end of the jury selection. We probably had maybe 10 out of the 12, and you got to have 2 alternates. And so we're getting kind of down to the end. And then this lady comes in and she's attractive. And so I'm kind of running out of I don't have to have a reason to just throw them off. And I got to come up with a reason and this and that. And I looked at O'Rourke, he looks at me, and I think we were both thinking, hey, it'd be nice to have her on the jury, just to look at a little more pleasant. Maybe. So she got on the jury. In the middle of the trial, a relative of my client came and said, "Rand, I need to talk to you for a minute. Something happened." Turned out they had gone to the same diner that this lady went to.
Oh.
And they heard her talking about, well, I fooled them all and he's guilty as hell and totally inappropriate. So that put me.
She was off the jury then?
Yeah. So I went and told the judge, I said, we're going to have a conference with Jim. I'm not going to tell you what's going on right now, but get Jim, will come in and talk to you. Oh, he was so mad. So I said, Judge, you don't have any choice. She's got to go. And Jim O'Rourke agreed with me. So he said, well, I'm going to question her myself. Well, you can't do that without, we got in a big argument. He said, well, I'm going to do it. If you don't like it, you can appeal it. So anyway, she went off and they put an alternate on. So with the DNA, what happened was we had the whole trial. The judge had to address the question of whether or not he was going to allow the DNA as evidence. And he made his decision, and without the jury in the room, and he said, I'm going to allow it. Now, the the other hearing's all over. That director of the FBI
Wow.
going back to
So
Washington,
no jury.
probably felt like she had a little vacation in rural upstate, county with a lot of people and a lot of cows. And she was a nice lady. I admired her for her integrity.
Wow,
She,
that's good.
yeah. And he said, well, the odds were 1,000,000 to 1. I'm throwing out the one marker. That makes it 1,000 to 1. And I said, you can't do that. He just looked at me and says, you can appeal it. Well, I can't appeal it until the trial's over and he's gone to prison. That's how that
Right.
worked. Yeah. So they convicted her. But they did put it down to a lesser charge. So, but they still got 25 years to life. So,
Ladies and gentlemen, before you get back into the episode, I have a huge ask. Below, there's going to be a link, and if you click that link, it's going to take you to a page, and that page is about the Ryan Larkin Invitational Adventure Race. It has been set up by a foundation, 62 Romeo Sleep Foundation, and I have a colleague of mine that's taking part in this race. It is a race that is going over 62 miles over 3 days in Colorado in June, and we're raising funds to support this excellent cause. We've lost many veterans to suicide. The numbers are just astronomical. One veteran to suicide is enough. The numbers that we get on a daily basis is exploding. And so we have organizations like this that are now trying to combat veteran suicide, supporting veterans when they come back from duty and they fight an even greater war. And the 62 Romeo project is run by a gentleman by the name of Rob Sweetman, and he is developed the Sleep 101 program for first responders and veterans, law enforcement, and it's phenomenal. And this Ryan Larkin Adventure Race is also in memory of Ryan Larkin, who was a Navy SEAL. And so please support this organization, support this race, and especially support my friend that is in Team Relentless. Team Relentless is the team that's going forward to the race. It is a race, as I said, over 3 days, 62 miles, and each team, there's 10 teams, and each team will be taking part on tests, strategic tests that I don't even know what's going to happen over them, but these are going to be military tests that they're going to do over this period of time, helping to test them to the resilience, their skills, their adaptability, and also their team resilience, the team building as well. So please support this phenomenal cause. Support Team Relentless by offering your donation today to support veterans. I'm a fellow veteran. I support all veterans. Please join me in supporting veterans. No matter whether you're a British veteran like me or whether you're an American veteran, we're all brothers and sisters in arms, and we all support one another. So please click the link below, go to the page and support Team Relentless, who will be taking part in the Ryan Larkin Invitational Adventure Race in June. And those dates and everything about that will be underneath. Let's get back to the show. God bless. So let's talk about the case that you've involved in. You're now retired and you've written a book. You've had a bit of a... Let's talk a little bit about your spiritual journey and how you managed to get onto that path and then write the book. And you and your brother went and did the hiking trail? You did a trail?
yeah, I did. But I wanted to talk to you about another murder case in Lewis County.
Go for it.
Remember I told you I was in 2?
That's right. Yeah. You had two top ones.
Yep. So the second one was after the Kiefer case. And I was retained by Donald Zeller he got in a fight with his first lawyer, and his lawyer sent him to me. And this guy was always sending me. He was the type of lawyer that lady was talking about, high conflict divorce lawyer case.
Yeah, she was on. Yeah. She's an expert.
He was that type of lawyer that she was talking about, that's very hard to get along with and makes it much harder.
Right, yeah, because she mentioned that when you're going through that, when you've got a lawyer that you can't connect with, that causes more problems.
Right. Well, he was of that nature, so he would get into these huge fights with clients, and then he'd send them over to me, and so and the seller had a lot of money. I just call him up. He'd call me up, and I'd say, okay, and I would tell him twice my normal retainer because I know it's going to be, it's going to be difficult. Like she was talking about, I could tell right away. 20 minutes
Right,
talking to a client, I know it's going to be hard or easy.
right.
And sometimes I know because I know who the other lawyer is. Anyway, so he came over and I just can kind of tell he had some mental health issues. And he was a great big guy, huge guy. So, but I got him custody of a 2-year-old child, a daughter
Wow.
he had with a woman that he despised, but that was very pretty. And when she came to court the first time I saw her, I'm like, wow, but she was not very intelligent and she was not well spoken. And he felt like he was in a different class anyway. And he had no intention of raising this child. He just didn't want her to have it. And he got mad at me
And that's
because
disgusting when you think about it, because it's the child that's suffering.
it's the worst. It's the absolute worst situation for an attorney to be in. What are you going to do? You got to do your job. Somebody's got to do it. He's entitled to an attorney. But you
And it's
know, really like,
difficult because your emotions and your own mental health is getting played as well.
yeah. And I felt like I could help him through this process because I'm pretty good at doing that with people. I mean, I had some of those clients that lady was talking about that were just impossible, impossible
Yeah.
to deal with. And a lot of times I managed to one way or another. And anyway, so I kind of knew he fired me because she had supervised visitation. He didn't want her to have any visitation. And he wasn't going to raise a kid. His mother was going to. That was his plan. So he was very unreasonable. And so when he fired me, he didn't pay the bill. So I sued him for the bill to get paid. I did a lot of work. I'm going to get paid, damn it. Right. So I'm in court.
That's fair enough.
I'm
Yeah.
in court in Lowville doing a trial one day. And we finished that trial. And then I went in the back room, the same one I was talking about before, being with Sheriff Jock and Mr. O'Rourke and so on. And after trial, I would always go in and I would dictate everything that happened during the trial. So if I had to do an appeal 6 months later, I wouldn't have to refresh my memory. I got it all written down. And I went back there and I did that. In the meantime, the courthouse emptied out. That courthouse was so amazing, John. It boggles my mind. No security, doors unlocked.
Really?
Doors
Anybody could come in.
People
See
could-
that, but that's a country type mentality though.
Yeah, unbelievable. So I did that. I leave. There's nobody else. I don't know it at that point, but there's nobody else in the building except the county clerk is having her lunch way down at the other end of the back part of the building, right? So I'm walking out of the second story where the Supreme Court courthouse was, where I had the trial. And here comes Donald Zeller. It's July. It's hotter than hell. He's wearing a hunting jacket, a wool hunting jacket with his hands stuffed in.
Oh, he's coming for you.
He's coming for me. And I just knew. I started yelling at him when he was still 20 feet away. Just turn around, Donald, walk out of here. And he never said a word to me. And he came in
Wow.
he came up to me about 2 feet from me. And by now I'm taking my finger and pointing it at his nose, which is like a foot above my head, because he's a big guy.
A big guy.
And I'm
Yeah.
saying, Donald, you turn around right now and walk out of here, or I'm gonna. And then my brain is going, I don't know what the hell you're gonna do, Rand. You don't even have a gun or nothing, right? And he had his hands in his pockets. He's standing there shaking, and then finally I could see his eyes change. See, he's a bully,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's used to bullying people. I've been dealing with
You
bullies
stood up to him.
my
Yeah.
whole life. And I just knew it. And he finally turned around and walked out. And I ran back to the room I was in because it was in the front of the courthouse and I could see the front door. And I stood there and watched him walk out and drive away. And the next day he murdered the mother of his child and another man, a cousin of hers, and wounded the new boyfriend.
Holy shit.
Yep. And then he disappeared.
Wow.
And I
And
get a
you knew straight away I mean, so there must have been a hunting group for him, looking for him everywhere, cops and everything out for him.
oh yeah, it was a mess. And Sheriff Jack called me about 4:00 in the morning.
Did you
That
prosecute that case then?
did I prosecute it?
Yeah,
No.
when he got, because that was what I was thinking. If he came for you and then he escaped and then eventually got arrested or whatever else, did you prosecute the case or were you nothing to do with it?
I know I could never do that. No, I would have been told.
Yeah, because he came for you.
Yeah, no, I would have been no. In fact, I drove back to I'll never forget it. I'm writing a book about I have written a book about this whole story about him. And I was driving to my office and the whole way I'm like, well, I could call Sheriff Jack up and tell him, and then he's gonna say, well, what did he say to you? Did he touch you? Did he hit you? Did you do and I said,
Yeah.
because my radar was going off big time, but I'm like, he didn't do anything. I
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
know
that's
it
the
wasn't
difficulty.
right.
No, there's nothing.
So I did this imaginary phone call in my head, and so I didn't do it. I didn't call anybody or do anything. And I told Sheriff Jack after he called me. I said, "Geez, man, I don't know. I knew something wasn't right, but he didn't do anything to me. He just looked very threatening, and he was sweating like a pig because he's wearing something was going on. He had his hands in his pocket. Well, so I armed myself to the teeth, got my family out of my house, and we kind of hid out for a week. But here's so Sheriff Jock, they got a search warrant for Donald Zeller's house. Okay.
Mm.
And they went to exercise the search warrant and they're over there searching the house. And the DA, Jim O'Rourke, walked over there with a BCI investigator, a state trooper, who was a friend of mine, a good friend of mine. He had a hunting camp up by me. We hunted together and stuff like that. And they get to the house and they're walking down the sidewalk to go into the house, and a trooper comes out with a wooden milk crate and is walking across the porch and down the steps, and he trips. So he uses the milk crate to break his fall. And when he does, the milk crate breaks and all these grenades go rolling down the sidewalk towards O'Rourke and the trooper.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Grenade.
He had 30,000 rounds of 7.62 ammo. That's military ammo.
That's military stuff. That's what we used to shoot. We had 7.62s. Yeah.
He had bazookas. He had grenades. I mean, this guy had an arsenal.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So eventually they caught him at a roadblock, and Sheriff Jock said he committed suicide. Well, I went and saw the truck. There was 20 bullet holes going into the truck.
So he didn't commit suicide, obviously, if it was going into the truck. He was taken out.
He committed suicide by cop.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Obviously. So you're writing a book on this case now.
Yeah, no, I wrote the book about 20 years ago while it was still fresh in my mind. But I haven't.
And is it available? Can we link it? Is it available on Amazon or bookstores?
Not yet, no. But I would like to talk about the other book.
Come on, Rand, you've got to put that out there.
I know. I'm still working on it. I'm getting it edited. No, that's going to take a while. Probably be about a year. But that was amazing. What happened there?
Jeez. What about your other book? Let's talk because we're coming up very soon to time. I want to talk about your other book and a little bit of your journey there. Show us your other book because you've written this one.
Yep.
Spiritual Passage. All right, let's talk about this because you've been through a lot, and let's talk about that. That book looks really good, actually. Let's talk about that book.
Sure.
And why you decided to do it.
Well, when my brother came home I did it because my brother's wife, Edie, died in 2017, leaving him with, and it was not it was a long, very hurtful period before she passed. She had a major stroke 6 years before. She had 7 kids, 27 grandkids, and now my brother has 30 great-grandchildren. But Edie was 14 years older than my brother. And what happened was, John, when he came back from Vietnam, he was, looking for something to do and all that. Anyway, Edie was our mother's best friend.
Oh, wow. All right. Okay.
So she's got
Right.
7 kids. Ronnie comes back from the war, meets Edie on the first date they go on. She shows up with the 3 youngest kids.
He had to know what he was in for. He had to know what he
Oh, I
was in for.
know. Well, he loved her to death. I mean,
That's
it's like a
amazing.
romance book of the perfect sort as far as love goes, They got
Wow.
very involved in the Mormon church. They moved to St. George, Utah. They lived out there for 40 years. Some of the kids still live out there with their big expanded families. And now he's got 60 some people that he's every day he's writing out cards and sending $5 to somebody because they graduated from school or birthday,
Wow.
and going to weddings and all that kind of stuff. So when Edie passed, he was really devastated. And we hadn't seen each other. We'd see each other maybe 1 or 2 days a year. I lived on the East Coast. He lived out in Utah. I'd never been to his
Yeah.
house in 40 years, and they always came east to see the whole family. We'd get together in the afternoon. My younger brother and I would probably drink too much and and kid Ronnie about being a bishop in the Mormon church, and look how he wasn't having any fun like we were, and that kind of stuff. Which I look back at it kind of like a little bit ashamed, but that's just the way it was. We got along fine, but we just weren't close or anything. But when Edie passed, I knew and I was struggling. I had been struggling with my alcoholism, and at that point I had been sober 4 years and very involved in recovery and helping other men and so on.
Yeah.
So I went out to see Ron, and we went for a hike in the Utah desert, which was beautiful in
Yeah.
January of 2018, and I said, "What are you gonna do, bro?" And he said, "I'm gonna walk the Appalachian Trail." I said,
And
um,
both of you walked the A-Tree Trail.
we both did, but when he said that, I'm like, I knew because I had done a fair amount of hiking in the Smoky Mountains.
Yeah.
Military guys have been traumatized by war. We tend to like to go off on our own sometimes and just I would
Yeah,
go
absolutely.
on
Yeah.
week
Yeah.
weekend excursions by myself and just go and climb in the mountains and try to forget things and that
Get into
physical.
nature
Yeah.
and connect
Uh,
with nature so you can leave the problems behind.
yeah. Well, I'm 72, he's 71. So this doesn't seem like I got an artificial knee. My right leg's a half inch left than my left. So I walked with a limp from a motorcycle accident. When I came back from the war, I needed something to give me an adrenaline. So I got a motorcycle. I had a whole bunch of motorcycles, that whole thing. And, but I also ran a lot of marathons, and Ronnie he did a lot of hiking and stuff. I didn't know how much stuff he had done. So when he said it wasn't totally out of the realm of possibility, but it seemed very, very iffy to me. And so I said, "Well, how are you going to do this?" He said, I'm gonna go down to I'm gonna take a bus down to Springer Mountain, Georgia, and start walking." I said, "Well, that's not a good plan, bro." So I'll go with you. So
And the two of you did it.
I said, "When are you going to do it?" He said, "March 22nd of this
And
year."
how long did it take you? Because it's normally about 6 months or so it takes people to do that trail.
Yeah, it took over 9 months, and it took us 3 years. We didn't make it the first year. We had every intention of making it the first year,
Right?
but, uh so in the book, what I did was Ronnie he was a pilot. He became a commercial pilot, and, he was very good about data, so his journal was all about where we were, where we went, how many fire it was, elevation
Wow.
changes, feet, and stuff like that.
So the book is about your journey through the AT trail and
Yeah.
everything you did.
Yeah, it's got 500 color pictures in it. So it's very
Wow.
descriptive of what we did, but I also every other, um, chapter I put in there about how I recovered from alcohol. I had a sponsor
I love that, man. That's brilliant.
how he did the steps with me and
And
all.
is it for sale? Do you sell it direct or is it for sale on Amazon and stuff like that?
If you Google a spiritual passage, it will pop right up.
Right.
And
I'm going to make sure. So, anybody who's listening to this, this is what it's about. I'm going to put a link in the show notes, put a link in where our videos are. Go and get that book because you know, that's real life. That's real stuff. That's a veteran and his brother taking that journey. That's what better book to sit and even have a beer with and have a little dram as you, even though he's battling, he's come through that side of things. But have a coffee, have a dram, sit and read it, because the photography in it and the whole story and everything else is phenomenal. So it took you 9 months and 3 years to get it done. And how old were you when you both finished, when you completed the trail?
Well, so I was 72, Ron was 71. We got to New Jersey the first year in
And
August.
how old are you now, Rand?
Pardon?
How old are you now?
80. I'm 80.
See, look at you. I mean, I feel like, I look at you and I'm like, dude doesn't even look like 80. I know you're 80. And anybody who's looking at this, if you're listening, you can't see him on the podcast, but if you go to the YouTube channel, which we opened recently, you're going to see him. The guy does not look like friggin' 80
No.
years old, and did the AT trail. And I feel really bad when I'm walking around the park and I've got a sore foot. and here's me talking to you like, yeah, I was 72 and I did the AT trail. I salute you.
Oh, thank you, John. That's really nice. Yeah, we were, I mean, in good shape for our age and everything. We still talk to each other regularly, and it's like, how do we do that? I don't know. One step at a time, man. It's like I did the recovery thing. But that first year we made 1,400 and some, and then the next year he called me in the spring. I didn't think we were going to finish it, but he said, "You want to try to finish it?" I said, "Sure." And then I
Wow.
fell down Wilcox Mountain in Massachusetts on a rock slide and really banged myself up bad.
Oh,
I
geez.
hardly walk after that. And then so we took a month off. We went back. We were in the Whites. We went around Mount Washington because it was closed at that time. And then we did Moosalok and Wolf. Went back. We were going to do the Whites.
Wow.
Hip was just, I ended up with a hip replacement a few weeks later. That's where I'm going with this. I had done serious damage to myself, and here I am still trying to hike. I hike.
Ryan, this is not a good thing for people to listen to and think. If you're thinking of doing the AT trail, it doesn't mean that you're going to end up with a hip replacement or something's going to happen. So, if you still go and do the trail, guys, just because it happened to him. But I mean, fair dues, you did it. Now, when you did the trail and you were doing each of these sections, you mentioned that you battled alcoholism. It helped you. That hike, that walk, that challenge, that helped you with your mental health?
Yes. It was very spiritual. That's why I called it a spiritual passage. My brother was
I
very
love that.
He had spiritual experiences on the trail. I did too. We wrote about them in the book. I wrote about them in the book. But I already had, I was not spiritual my whole adult life because of the things that happened. I just didn't have. Ronnie was always spiritual. I was like, forget about it. I'm not doing that stuff. But then in the recovery program, I failed at first until I made a connection with a higher power. And that's what my sponsor said you got to do. And I ended up making a connection with a higher power. When we were doing the trail, I had guys that were calling me every day that I was working with that helped me.
And a lot of people don't realize that Alcoholics Anonymous, that 12-step process is a connection, is a spiritual process connecting with a higher power.
Yep, changed my whole life. I never could have done it without that. I mean, at 68 years old, I'm looking in the mirror wanting to be dead. And
That's crazy. I honestly,
how does that
it's
happen?
amazing. It's amazing what you've achieved in all your life, and as a lawyer, as a veteran, I mean, not as a soldier and fighting in combat for the country, and then coming back, doing what you've done, doing the AT trail with your brother, having a transformational journey. Let's talk a bit before we finish. I want to talk about some of your spiritual experiences that you had on the journey.
I had one when we went to the Smokies. It snowed. They had a foot of snow in the Smokies, so we actually jumped from Fontana Dam up to Damascus and went north and did 200 miles in Virginia, and then we went back and did the Smokies. The Smokies are really, really hard. And Ronnie was going south most days. I was going north, and there's a place called False Gap. Anyway, I pitched my tent by myself. I'm all by myself. It's almost dark. Storm's coming up on a trail south of Klingman's Dome in the Smoky Mountains, where the trail is about 12 feet wide and drops straight down on both sides, thousands of feet. It's unbelievable. And I got caught there in this storm and pitched the tent and got in it. And the winds came up. It sounded like freight trains coming at,
Wow.
coming at
Yeah.
me. And sometimes they would go to the right or the left, and then I hear one coming right at me. And that tent was beating the crap out of me. The winds were so,
Can you imagine?
Ron, I can't even describe it. I felt like I was in a body bag and I'm going to get blown off this mountain. And there's not a damn thing I can do about it. My brother said, "Were you holding on to the rods that hold the tent up?" And I said, "Hell no, I
No.
was pushing down on the stakes with my hands and my feet as hard as I could to make sure I didn't, if it detached and I blew up, I would be dead." So, and I was
You would have
praying,
went over and down. There's no doubt about it.
yeah, and I was praying to that God I didn't used to believe in, that I had a good relationship with. And I said, big guy, if this is the way it's going to be, I'll accept it. Don't have much choice in, but I've been a good boy now for about 4 years. I think I could help a lot more men if you just like save my butt. And I just prayed like a son of a gun, but it went on for hours. I mean, that tent was just like that every time those freight trains would fly over. But when it started to get light, it let up, and I crawled out of the tent. I'm like, "Oh my god." Another really close call. And,
Wow.
I turned my phone on because that's what I did every morning, because I had a couple guys that would call me and just check in, tell me they were doing all right and stuff like that. And one of them
Yeah.
goes, "Rand, I think you're in the Smoky Mountains, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, I was watching, they had some really bad storms there, and it might have been a tornado or something." I said, "Well, I didn't see any tornadoes, but it was bad." I didn't know
Jeez.
how bad it was, but I don't know. For me, that
And
gave me,
was it after that, Rand, that when you had that experience and you reached out to a higher power, God, whatever anybody else, great spirit, whatever they say, that was the turning point for you then to look at your spirituality even more?
it was one of them, yes, for sure. I just
Wow.
realized that God was a lot bigger than I had given him credit for. The whole thing that the Appalachian Trail did for me is, my God for in the beginning was like small. There were days in the early part of my current recovery, which I'm coming up on 12 years now,
Well
uh,
done.
where it was like
Congratulations.
51% not drink, 49% drink. I mean, the obsession is so powerful. People don't
Mm,
realize we don't metabolize alcohol the same as normal people, and we create
no.
acetone. So there's a physiological reason why alcoholics are different, but our brains are also different, right?
Yeah.
And I realized that, I don't know, the whole Appalachian Trail thing, what happened is that my God went from being pretty damn small to the creator of the universe. Immense.
Wow. That's
So
amazing.
yeah. And so when I turn my difficulties over to him, it's pretty simple, right? I mean, he created everything.
That's
So
right.
it changed my whole perspective. It changed my attitude of gratitude to unbelievable.
Wow.
Unbelievable. And Ronnie, the same thing. He had an experience. There's a picture in the book where he was really down in the dumps, and he saw this. There's a picture in there where the sun, whatever it was, there's this huge glow. It looks like a halo in the trail, right? And the rest of it, the forest was black. The whole forest was black that whole day. I mean, it was one of those days where you could have had a flashlight, right?
Wow.
And he comes around the corner. It's Father's Day, 2018, and there's this huge white glow with, it looks like a person in it. Is it Jesus? Is it Muhammad? Is it,
Wow.
it could be whatever you want it to be, right? And he heard Edie saying, "Ronnie, it's okay. You're doing the right thing. I'm okay. I'm here with Dad. We'll see you, plenty of time. There's plenty of time. Don't worry about it." And it changed the nature of his grief. You're still
Wow.
sad, but it took away, I don't know. So it's hard to explain these spiritual things, but that was very spiritual for him. And so there was
I
some other,
love that.
yeah. Ronnie had some other situations. I had some other situations that were in the book. And the reader will see how we grew spiritually and our lives became more full. And meaningful.
I love that. I love that. Your story's absolutely amazing. Just before we finish here, Rand, bring the book up one more time. Let's show everybody the book. There we go. It's called A Spiritual Passage, Rand B. Timmerman Esquire, and we'll have links to it so that you can get it. Rand, I want to thank you for being my guest on Legal Owl today. From a fellow soldier, thank you for serving, for fighting for your country. It's been an honor to talk to you, and we'll be talking again because I'm sure there's loads of stories that we can talk about on this show. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow veteran, a scholar, a spiritual journeyman, if you like, with his brother, a lawyer, defender. These are the stories that help make our lives real, that help us connect. And I would recommend you to read Rand's book, get the book, listen to stories. Thank you for sharing the stories with us as well. And it's been an honor to chat with you, Rand, and I can't wait to have you back on and chat with you again. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Legal Owl. Thank you for joining us again. Please connect with Rand. The links will be below for to get his book. And what an amazing story. What an amazing time to spend with you, Rand.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
God bless, my friend. We'll
God
speak
bless you.
very soon.
Yes, I'd love to do it again. Thank you. Got a lot more stories.
Absolutely. I know you've got loads more stories. We're definitely going to have you back so we can share more of these stories, and I look forward to it. God bless. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Hi, if you are a legal expert or an expert witness with experience, then I invite you to join us on Help Lawyer. Just connect with us and we'll have a conversation. God bless.
You've been listening to The Legal Owl, where law meets the unseen layers of clarity, leadership, and inner alignment. If this sparks something in you, trust that feeling. Let it lead you. For deeper insights, real conversation, and strategic guidance, connect through the Help Lawyer Network and subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. If you prefer a more private connection, you'll find the path when you're ready. Until next time, stay present, think deeper, and lead wiser.